3/4 of a mile from where we're sitting. I was a kid. I used to hunt quail right out this back window that we're sitting next to. And I lived here in Natchitoches all my life. I was born January the 20th, 1923. My parents were Gerard F. Thomas Sr. He was born up in Bienville Parish. My mother was Essie Hermanhaus. That's German. Her father was a German immigrant. He came to the United States in probably 1870 or somewhere between there and 1880. She was born in Arcadia, but when she met my father, she was living in Leesville. Her father was a mechanic in the sawmill there. He was a millwright. He was a head mechanic in a big sawmill they had in Leesville. Well, I went to the public schools in Natchitoches Parish. I went to the lab school up at the university, what's Northwestern University now. Started up there when I was 6 years old. I went to Natchitoches High School, graduated in 1939. Went to Northwestern State University. That's where I started in the fall after I graduated in May from Natchitoches High School. When I started to Northwestern, my plans were that I would, if I was able to do it, I would go on to law school at LSU. And so I really didn't have a 4-year program in mind when I started. That the war intervened, you know, and that kind of changed everybody's plans. But I did finally, I finished my 4-year course in regular time. Graduated in 1943 with a Bachelor of Arts degree from Northwestern. I think my father was probably the biggest influence about that. He had always wanted to be a lawyer, but he never had the opportunity. I finished graduated in May, the latter part of May, and I was gone on June the 15th. I was headed for Parris Island, South Carolina. I was assigned from there to the West Coast, California, Camp Pendleton. I was at Camp Pendleton for, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, and then I got sent down to the replacement pool down at San Diego, and I was there for a short while and then went overseas to Hawaii to the replacement camp over there. I eventually wound up on Tinian as a member of the 24th Regiment of the 4th Marine Division. And I was transferred from the 4th Division to the 2nd Division. And that's where I stayed for the rest of the war. I was a member of the 2nd Marine Division, the 8th Regiment. I started the law school at LSU on June the 15th, 1946. I went straight through. I went to 3 summer sessions and the regular 2 years. And, you know, got the necessary hours. I forget how many it was, but I graduated in 1948. When we first got married, we didn't have any children, and we wanted to have children, and we weren't successful at it, and so we adopted our first child, and we adopted him in 1950. My daughter Marcia was born in 52. She was born February the 11th, 1952. And then we had my son Richard was born April the 30th, 1953. Came back to Natchitoches, opened up a law office, a solo practice. Been here ever since. From the time I started, I made enough money to cover my family, living expenses. I guess that's about all you can hope for.
Yeah.
I was involved in so many that they've all kind of run together. But I had a few situations that I remember when I hadn't been practicing very long. I guess it must have been in the first 3 or 4 years that I practiced law. I filed a suit against the city of Natchitoches because they wanted to put Christmas lights on a magnolia tree. Ladies came to the office. They didn't have any money. They were so passionate about what they believed, and so I sued the city and said, you can't put Christmas lights on the tree, but the judge felt differently about it. I did more personal injury law work for representing plaintiffs than any other kind, and also I handled a terrible amount of work with workers' compensation cases. I got to where I could try 2 or 3 of those a week and not miss a beat, but it was finally got to, but that's what I mostly did, but I tried most any sort of lawsuit that required work in the courtroom. When I had been practicing about 5 years, Julian Bales and I shared an office together. We didn't have any formal partnership or anything, but we had a very close relationship. He subsequently became a judge, and we used to work on some things together, and he and I were together about, I guess about 6 or 8 years, and he was a city judge, and then he became a district judge and served until he retired, and then he was appointed to serve all over the state. The first relationship I had with anybody to practice law was Sam Friedman, whose father was in the Senate, Louisiana Senate. He graduated from LSU and then did some service time, and he came back and he came into my office, and we had a partnership that lasted about 6 years, 7 years, and then we split that up, and the next partnership I had was one with Edwin Donahoe, and he and I practiced together about 25 years, and one of my son Robert, practiced with us for a while. My daughter Marcia, before she passed away, she practiced with us. Plaintiff practice became much more attractive, and kind of an air of liberality struck the courts and the juries, and we lawyers, I think, began to recognize that, and money began, inflation worked on driving up damage awards, and there was a lot of money to be made, and it was a good area to practice in, and I did very well at it, and enjoyed it. It's good area of practice. I used to do some defense work, no more than I could get out of, but I preferred representing plaintiffs, and just different approach, different stroke. I tried lawsuits with what I think were some of the finest lawyers here were most of the lawyers that came down from Shreveport, Alexandria. There was Sidney Cook and his firm are always, in my mind, as good as they come. The other firms in Shreveport, the Blanchard Goldstein firm, I used to try cases with them. I tried cases with Judge Dawkins before he went on the bench, and he was a very capable lawyer. Howard Gist and his firm, Leo Gold and his down in Alexandria. We haven't had any shortage of good lawyers on either side of the bar down in this part of the country. We've had excellent lawyers. I got interested in working with the Bar Association back in the 50s after I'd been practicing a couple of years, and it just seemed to me that if you're going to be a part of a profession, you should take an active part in its business and trying to take care of its advancement. And so I got in the House of Delegates to the Bar Association probably 1956 and served until the 1990s, probably a total of 35, maybe 40 years. I belong to the ABA, I belong to the American College of Trial Lawyers, which is a very prestigious organization, and I worked in it. Probably served on its state committee for a total of 20 years while I was active practicing, and I just thought it was a good way to spend your time, and that's what I did. Tried that cocoa case involving the young man who lost his hand in a mobile home plant and got a substantial award, and it went to the Supreme Court, and the issue was damages, but I don't, there's no telling how many thousand times that case has shown up in the reported cases, you know, so just for one that's been mentioned more than anything else, I guess that would be it, but it really was, I wouldn't call it the most important case I ever tried. In fact, I never really looked at cases one being any more important than the other, because they're all so important to your clients, and they may look like, you know, chicken feed to you because there's not much involved in it, but to your client it's probably the biggest event they're ever going to be involved in, and it's very, very important. We went through a period of time, I'd say from probably 1950 to probably 1975, where it was kept getting a little more liberal and a little more liberal, and after that I think it began to tighten up a little, and people began to be a little more tight-fisted with trying to get money when you were representing injured people. So I'd say that's about the only change I've seen, and it hasn't been anything, I don't think it's remarkable. I still think if you have a good lawsuit or a good claim, if you take it and put it before the right people, you'll get the good results. Actually, I quit about I don't think I tried a lawsuit after 1984, maybe 85. And as far as I'm concerned, then I really haven't done any legal work since then. I served a time on that New Orleans Casino Commission where I was paid a salary and I couldn't work at anything else, so I didn't do any law work during that period of time. And I finally just drifted away from it. I'm proud of the work I did for the Bar Association. And I think really in the disciplinary area, because I've served 4 years on the Judicial Commission. That's a disciplinary arm for the state and judges, you know, and it's another one of those things. There's not a lot of fun involved in it, but it's interesting work. Accomplishes good.